Hello and welcome to first lecture in 16th chapter of our comprehensive course on AI, ML and DS. Here we are at present doing various chapters on this data visualization, and we are at present handling this portion of the data science life cycle. Now we had done Seaborn introduction in the previous chapter, this, and we had plotted one histogram with the distribution plot. If I recreate it quickly, then this is the histogram with the distribution plot. Okay, then same for gender, this kind of plot. Then one scatter plot was plotted for profit versus sales for this data frame, and we got this kind of plot. I also showed that here instead of sns.scatter plot, you can write sns.line plot, and you can get line plot. Okay, then count plot, distribution plot. So then for that we plotted this kind of distribution plot for value column, this column, then count plot for various categories, then category versus value, so one categorical variable and one numeric variable, and we plotted the box plots. We also studied about themes and customization. So I told you that there are many themes: white theme, dark theme, then white, dark grid, white grid, ticks. Similarly, there are many: context, paper, notebook, talk, poster, and then we took one example of that. Okay, now hope you have done these exercise questions. Now we want to do some more advanced Seaborn topics. So here we want to learn about violin plot, swarm plot, and strip plots, and understand how to visualize statistical relationship using regression plot and doing multivariate analysis. So this analysis is going to be slightly more complex than what we have done. For example, when we did EDA, exploratory data analysis, then we had done univariate and bivariate. But I also said that it is possible to do multivariate analysis, but we did not take any example. So we will do that. But first, let us handle this part: how to create violin plot, swarm plot, and strip plots. The code remains very simple because SNS is highly predictable and user-friendly library. So SNS.violin plot for plotting violin plot, SNS.swarm plot for plotting swarm plot, and SNS.strip plot for plotting strip plot. Rest of the things are very common, that you want to create some figure of some customized size, then use that. Otherwise, SNS mostly handles the size automatically very nicely, so you don't require to do this with SNS. And then if you want to give some title, then plt.title and plt.xlabel, plt.ylabel, plt.grid, plt.legend, and finally plt.show. All are standard steps. So even the name of the plot are also exactly the same as in the code as the name which you are writing here. Okay, so very friendly syntax of SNS. But first, let us see what is this violin plot. So violin plot is like this kind of plot. I have plotted a very magnified plot. Suppose this is the violin plot from a data set which is having the miles per gallon, the average, what in common language we say, or mileage of the car, various different cars, and these are on x-axis. These are the models: Mazda and Honda and Subaru, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, BMW, Toyota, Nissan, Jaguar, Porsche, and so on. So you see that as compared to the ordinary box plot, or the box plot also I could have plotted, but instead of that, this gives more clear data distribution. Like it shows that it is a multimodal thing. This is not very normal. This is normal, but it is also multimodal thing, and like that. In fact, none of this data set can be treated perfectly normal except maybe this one, middle one, which is normal. Of course, it extends a lot on either side, but that can be handled by some transformations. And not only that, my violin plot shows the data distribution, but it also shows the distribution of data points. That in the region, in the central region, how many data points are there, or in the edge region, how many data points are there. Like this. For example, here the central region has a little bit. Okay, central, what you call, I'm calling central lengthwise, that is measuring the absolute length in centimeter, and then this is the central region somewhere here. Then you can see that central region has very few data points, but on this edge and this edge, particularly on the lower edge, the data points are many, and therefore the thickness of this violin is also many. This one is perfectly nice example of why this is called a violin plot. You can see that its shape is matching with a violin exactly, right? So this kind of plot can be easily plotted with SNS library. Then this is the example of swarm plots, these or these both, these are the example of swarm plots. If I just rotate this 90-degree anti-clockwise, then it would become like this only. Of course, here data distribution is shown around it. Here data distribution is not shown. But apart from that, this Christmas tree like plot is a characteristic of a swarm plot. Okay. Then this is the strip plot. The advantage of strip plot is that it is like a scatter plot, but scatter plots can be plotted only for numerical variables, while strip plots are kind of scatter plots for categorical variables, and they typically appear like this. That is, this kind of strips are there. If there are three categories, say man, woman, and child in a data set, then they will appear as three distinct strips with three distinct colors. Mostly colors will also handled by SNS automatically using the hue, that argument, right? So that here this is shown as a difference between what is the difference between scatter plot and what is the difference between strip plot, because I said that strip plot is similar to the scatter plot but for categorical variable. So then this is a scatter plot for numeric variable. This is a strip plot. So strip plots are always slightly wider. And when you plot the box plot, then the difference is very clearly visible. That if it is this numeric variable, then its the box plot is always represented by this box. But if it is a categorical variable, then better to represent by violin plot. That is this earlier. Okay. So these are just some images which I have taken from different data sets of Seaborn library only. And just for the sake of some initial introduction, that this kind of plot is called violin plot. This kind of plot in which Christmas tree like structure will be seen either with the data distribution or without the data distribution, and this kind of plot in which three categories are shown by three colored strips, that is called strip plot. Now let us start our analysis. That was just examples, but now we try to get these three types of plots by actual coding. Now here Seaborn has one other built-in another advantage, and that is a much bigger advantage compared to Matplotlib, that Seaborn internally contains so many data sets built in. So that means when I import Seaborn as a SNS, then SNS library is imported, but I also acquire an ability to load a data set directly. So that means I don't need to first download this data set iris and say iris.csv somewhere here in my working directory, and then I will say that pd.read_csv iris.csv. I can do that if I want to, but if I don't want to download, I am just exploring a few features. Like here, I am just exploring few visualization features of SNS library. So I can directly load the dataset, and this is not the only dataset which is available to Seaborn, but there are at least 20 or so datasets ready-made available with Seaborn. So when I write this SNS.load dataset and then the name of the dataset, that you have to specify in the as the argument. Of course, remember that this loading occurs from the Seaborn repository at the remote server, and therefore internet must be on. And you will see that therefore it takes some slight time also for loading, and I'm printing the head. Okay, so then these are the characteristics of the dataset: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. So what is this? Iris is actually a type of flower. So I have included this image, and in that flower there are three species. One is called Iris setosa, another is called Iris versicolor, and another is called Iris virginica. Right? So these are the three species, and then among those three species, which species this thing belongs to, a particular observation belongs to. See, here the label is given to us, so it is fine. But let me first remove this head. Then also I will have to set that option pd dot display underscore maximum columns equals none, or display max columns none. But if I show that, then entire data set will have okay, let me print iris dot shape. So it will give you how many rows and columns are there in my data set. So it has 150 observations and 5 columns. What are the 5 columns that we have just now seen? Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. Okay, and fifth column is the species. So actually, this iris dataset, and this dataset is taught for data analysis in every data science course, because it is a multi-class classification. So this is my response variable. That is, species is my response variable, and these are my feature variables. So that is, these are my independent variables: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. These are my independent variables. Okay, and this is my dependent variable or response variable. So here the data set is fully labeled. All 150 rows will have this species column marked. But our goal is to make a machine learning predictive model such that for some say 151th observation comes, and some values of this sepal length is given, some values of this sepal width is given, some values of this petal length is given, and some values of this petal width is given, and this label is not given. So based on these 4 features, their value, I should be able to predict that iris flower, whether it falls in Setosa class, or whether it falls in versicolor class, or whether it falls in virginica class. Okay, so that is the reason it is three class classification or multi-class classification. Just like customer churn example was a binary classification, whether the customer will churn, that is will go to the my competitor company or not. Similarly, this is a multi-class classification. And these are parameters. What is sepal? Then this kind of every iris flower will have one such a characteristic large uh, leaf, and that is considered its a sepal. And this long part, that is called sepal length, and this part, that is called sepal width. Okay, similarly this kind of shaped thing will be there, that is called petal. You can clearly see that compared to all other flowers, this petal is very regular in shape, so it is easy to identify that. Again, this longitudinal length where I'm moving my cursor, that is called petal length, and this is called petal width. So this is the real life data set collected by botanists, and based on these four features, you should be able to predict whether the flower belongs to this class or this class or this class. Okay, so this is the data science task, just for the sake of doing some meaningful discussion. Otherwise, you will feel that what is this and why we are doing. So this is the what is the data science point of view discussion. Now, I said that this SNS does not have only the iris data set, but it has around 20 data sets or so. So if you want to print that name, that how many the different data sets are available, then you can take this way, that get data set SNS dot get underscore dataset underscore names, and if you plot them, then you can see that anagrams, Anscombe, then attention, brain networks, car crashes, diamonds, dots, and so on, Dow Jones, exercise, flight. So a variety of different domains are included. Dow Jones means stock market related data. Diamond is the data which classifies the or predicts the price of the diamond based on color, carat, and the quality or cleanliness of the diamond. Car crashes is a totally different data set. Brain network is a different data set. Then iris is related with botany. MPG is miles per gallon. That one, that earliest picture. This data set giving the mileage of various different brands of car. Penguins, planets, taxis, tips. Titanic is the again real life data set of the Titanic ship passengers. That the famous huge ship which tragically drowned during its maiden voyage only, and almost 90% of the passengers were killed. So this is also one of the favorite data science example that you are asked to predict. It means you are asked to find some pattern, whether there is some pattern in the people who are killed and people who are saved, that maybe more males survived than more female, or the other way around, more females survived than more males, or maybe first class passenger perished more than or maybe first class passengers perished the minimum number, while third class and second class passengers, their number of casualty was more. So all those things. For example, one conclusion which comes after the analysis is that among the survivor, female and children were the maximum in number, while male perished the most, because that is a noble principle in any disaster, that any survival or whatever survival methods are available, like lifeboat and life jackets, they are first allocated to women and children, and therefore women and children survived the most out of this. Okay, so these are many different data sets, and a single SNS library is a very rich library, and you can study this data sets in far details. Okay, I have given a brief introduction of all these data sets at the bottom, at the end of the chapter, just before the exercise question begin. That is just before this. Okay, so these are each data set and what that data set gives. So I kindly request you to please go through that, because this is a really rich source of data, and most of them are real life data. That is the biggest thing about this. Okay, now let us come back to our track. So we wanted to create first this violin plot. Okay, and as I said, the syntax is very common. Once your data set is loaded, then you have to just write what you want to put as x and what you want to put as y. So here my x and y are sepal length versus sepal width. Somebody says, no, I want to put plot violin plot of petal length versus petal length, then that is also fine. Okay, in fact here I think it is species versus petal length, that kind of plot is there. So this column species versus this column petal length, but if somebody can plot species versus sepal length, or somebody can plot species versus petal weight, and so on. In fact, at your in your exercise you should try plotting all those others also. They are, I think, coming, but I have taken another for swarm plot and another for other types of plot. Anyway, so SNS.violin plot, x is equal to species and y is equal to petal length, and data is which data? Then it is iris data. So I have loaded my data as iris SNS.load data set. So I am going to use that data. Okay, so very simple syntax is there. You specify what is x, what is y, and specify the name of your data set which you have loaded in your environment, and then plot. And this is the violin plot. So you can see that here more or less Gaussian distribution is obeyed. The leaves of flowers nature is very interesting. The leaves of flower more or less naturally obey Gaussian distribution. Of course, here you can see that for Virginica, this is elongated much on this side, and similarly for versicolor, this is elongated much on this side. For Setosa, the central portion is very wide, so that means most of the observations fall in this median petal length, the white line, that is the median. Okay, so most of the observations fall in median petal length. That means that petal length does not vary over a very big amount for Setosa. Okay, petal length varies for a reasonable amount, quite large amount for versicolor and virginica, but for versicolor, majority of the points are below the median, white that line. Okay, while for virginica, majority of the points are above the median. So it seems that classifying these three based on petal length would be easy, because here they are exactly symmetrically distributed above with respect to median. Above and below are equal. Here below are more and here above are more. Fine. Now this is the explanation, so I will not go into that. Now here, this is the another plot, swarm plot. If I want to plot species versus petal length, I am choosing same thing, and data is equal to iris. Color you can specify any other color, black or whatever. And I am also, for comparison, I am plotting this SNS versus a violin plot also later on. So first. Okay, because if I plot both, I think, yeah, SNS is there, so it will be able to handle, I think. No, it is plotting the violin plot only, because whatever is, yeah, I have to create subplots first. Then, so swarm plot. Now this is the swarm plot, right? So it is characterized by that Christmas tree like presentation, but actually speaking, it is the data points. Now, what is the main difference between violin plot and swarm plot? If you see, then in violin plot, these points they overlap over each other, but in swarm plot, the points actually they never overlap. So if you want to identify each and every data point separately, then it is better to plot swarm plot compared to violin plot. So if I again comment out that this, or maybe let us keep this and plot it separately. I want just to show the comparison between violin plot and swarm plot. So this is the violin plot. Smooth distribution of data is shown, while here actual data points are shown in swarm plot, and rest of the things are same conclusions can be drawn. What I said from the violin point here also. Here median is not shown, but roughly you can understand what will be the median. So then symmetrically distributed with respect to median, more data points below the median, while here more data points are above the median. Okay, that is the characteristic of petal length versus the species graph for Setosa. Symmetric for versicolor, majority below median, and for virginica, majority above median. That petal length is C. Okay. Now I will delete that, because our purpose was to see the swarm plot. And this time again species versus petal length, but this time we want to plot the strip plot. Now what is this? Jitter is equal to true, and there is age color. That let us do one thing. Whenever suppose you see a new code and you are not clear that what is this, then make jitter is equal to false. Okay, and see the diagram and then make true. So you will see that this jitter is equal to true. That adds some value to the color. Edge color is equal to auto is, I think, the default selection. So when you don't add any jitter, then the plots are in the strip plots. Strips are not seen. I showed earlier for that men, women, and children. Okay, such strips should be shown. Instead, just a line is shown. Maybe this kind of line. So it is looking almost like a scatter plot. But here I told you here that this is the scatter plot for a numerical variable, while this is actually a strip plot. Some width must be there. So let us now make that jitter is equal to true. So jitter is equal to true does what? It just disturbs each value slightly, so that these data points are symmetrically changed, but one is symmetrically changed towards right side, one is changed towards left side, one next right side, next left side, somewhat like that, so that the whole plot will have some width. Okay, so let us make jitter is equal to 2, and let us replot. And you can see now that strips are visible. Okay, so remember that this jitter we have introduced in the plot just for better visibility. Otherwise, the data set originally did not have jitter as far as this petal length is concerned. Previous was okay, it was also petal length, right? And edge color is auto. I think I can even remove that because it won't make much of a difference. Yes, it does not hardly makes any difference, right? So that is fine. Then, because you may feel that it is complicated code, but actually it is same SNS dot. If you want to put violin plot, then SNS dot violin plot. If you want to plot that previous swarm plot, then SNS dot swarm plot. And if you want to plot strip plot, then SNS dot strip plot. Three arguments are also common. X is equal to normally the categorical variable. Y is equal to normally X is equal to normally the target variable. Y is equal to the numeric variable. And you have to specify from which data set. The rest of the things you will automatically remember, because if you get a strip plot which is not like a strip at all, then you will understand that yes, I forgot jitter is equal to 2. Even the size is equal to 5 and color is equal to red, you can avoid this argument. Still, it will adjust on its own. Okay, so you will see that it has plotted blue color, but that is okay. It does not make much of a difference, correct? So fine. Now we will do next this portion, visualizing statistical relationship using regression plot. So from here we will start discussion about something about called regression. Okay, so actually speaking, regression will be discussed in much detail somewhere in chapter 20, 21, somewhere in that or after that. But we are just here. I will just do enough discussion, which is just enough for understanding this plot, because our aim here is not to understand regression. Our aim is to understand visualization, and regression is taken just as an example. Okay, because SNS has that facility that it can provide reg plot, SNS.reg plot, so regression plot. So first we have to understand what is regression. So I will just introduce that much what is regression. Okay, so we need in the next lecture. Thank you.